Hey everybody, what's up? Whoa, sorry about that. Trying to get this at eye level for you. There we go. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this month's review of Sonic the Hedgehog 222, issue 222 by Archie Comics. That's right, Archie Comics. And a little backstory on this, folks. A little bit of backstory so you'll know. Initially, I thought I was going to get this issue last week, because usually I get my issues about a week before or something like that, you know. I usually get them about a week before. And, because, you know, tomorrow they're supposed to be coming out in newsstands everywhere. Well, I didn't get it last week, unfortunately. I did not get it. Which was crazy. Which was really crazy. I didn't get it last week, but what I did do, which was I think on the 1st, I emailed Archie Comics' subscription office. I emailed them. I gave them my information. I gave them when my issue last ended. And basically, by giving them that information, they looked it up, and they realized, you know, this guy does have a free 13th issue coming. Because you see, last year when I did my 1-year subscription renewal, it was at a time when they offered 1-year subscription. It's true, they offered a 1-year subscription. So anyway, I told them about it, and today, believe it or not, I got the issue. Now I figured I was going to get it probably before the week was out, but you know, and obviously I would have, because if you think about it, I got the thing. It was mailed out the 3rd. It was mailed out on March 3rd, which was a Thursday. Now I'm pretty sure that being in the envelope that it was in, yes, it came in an envelope, that I would have gotten the issue by Saturday. Did not happen. I got it today. Now, this is what it came in, like I said. This is what it came in. I'm pretty sure you can see that, maybe not. But this is what it came in. Right here. Came in today. And along with this issue, also came, believe this or not, I was thinking to myself, are you seriously kidding me? A Mega Man poster. I'm not lying, folks. A Mega Man poster. In the comics, not supposed to come out until May, but I guess they want to get it all presented and everything, or something. I don't know. Yeah, Mega Man poster came inside this envelope. I guess it's maybe an apology or an extra gift and an apology for the fact that they didn't. My guess is, folks, someone goofed up over at Archie Comics subscription department. That's my thought. Somebody goofed up and didn't realize, oh, this person has a free 13th issue. And you know, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Pretty sure I'm not the only one. But anyway, I got the issue today. And everything people have said about it, the summaries, the spoilers, the hypeness, all of it lived up to what it said. Yes, it did. It lived up to everything. Okay, so basically we start off, as we get into this review, basically we start off with the 5-page preview that we got. The 5-page preview that we got online. And then we go to the 6th page, which is right here. This is the 6th and 7th page that we go to. So anyway, after Sally's told Ken that she has a date with Sonic, Ken is asking her Ken asks her if this is basically basically Ken is asking her, if, isn't this exactly what she wanted? You know, he's asking her, basically the way he's asking her is, well, Sal, isn't this what you wanted? Isn't this what you've been looking for? And Sally's like, well, yeah, you know, it is. You know, well, yeah, I think it is. I just don't want to ruin things like I did before. Now, what she's talking about, and she goes on to explain to Ken what she's talking about, and what she's talking about is this situation that occurred in 134. Basically, she's afraid, A, she's going to mess things up. Now, she does indicate that everything was so easy. Everything was easy, or so easy, before she, because she has to pause here for a second, before she messed things up in 134, you know, with the slap and the argument in front of people and all that. So basically, she has to acknowledge, you know, what she did. She has to acknowledge what she did to Ken. And basically, she's not sure if her and Sonic are the same people they once were. Now Ken Con, and I like what Ian does here, reassures her saying, it's you. It's you, it'll be fine, and if you need to talk, I'm here. Which again, I like what Ian does here with Ken Con. He basically makes him understanding. And Sal thanks him, saying she just needs to chill out for a bit. And then, of course, Ken has to remind her, well, you do realize that we're on the other side of the world, right? And it's got to be like late afternoon in New Mobotropolis. And this kind of surprises Sally. This surprises her to the point that, I'm trying to get the whole thing in there, there we go. Surprises her to the point that she has to use the warp ring. Maybe if there we go, zoom out a little bit. There we go. Kind of surprises Sally to the point that she has to use the warp ring. She thanks Ken for listening. She says she'll see him later. And as she's going through the warp ring from the Dragon Kingdom back to New Mobotropolis, she runs right into Sonic, who's still playing Capture the Flag with Tails. So that's what they're doing. You know, Sonic and Tails are playing Capture the Flag. Now, of course, you know, both Sonic and her apologize for running into each other. And she tells Sonic, I might be a little late tonight. Sonic says, hey, no problem, it's cool. She thanks him, she says hi to Tails and says she's got to go. And then Tails realizes, not Tails, but Sonic realizes, I totally lost track of time. Like, you know, he's realizing what Tails mentioned earlier is true. He was having so much fun with Tails playing Capture the Flag that he had indeed lost track of time. So what does he and Sally do in the next few pages, which I like? I mean, I love this. They do a side-by-side comparison of them getting ready, of them rushing back into the homes and getting ready for their date. I love this. I love this side-by-side comparison. I really do. I love the side-by-side comparison. Now, Sally's asking her mom, what am I going to do? I have no plan for this. Sonic's rushing into his house. Sonic's uncle's asking, you know, is Eggman back? What's the hurry? You know, so, and Sonic's like, no, not this time, you know, I'm just going to be late for my date. Now, Alicia's like, well, I'm afraid, now Alicia, Sally's mom, kind of informs her that she may not be any help because dating was different in her day. And we see Sally kind of, you know, looking at some dresses in the mirror, kind of like, you know, wondering which would look better, and, you know, and then we have like I said, the side-by-side deal. Like, both are getting ready at the same time. Both are hurrying. And Sonic's uncle's asking him if he's nervous. No, he just tells, and Sonic's like, no, I just want us to go right with Sal. And then here we have Sal looking at the dresses, asking her mom, formal, casual. Her mom, you know, Sally's mom's asking her how serious it is, and she's like, I don't know. And Sonic's looking at the mirror, kind of brushing back his quill, saying, no worries about the no worrying about the nanite stuff, no worrying about St. John. Sorry if I'm ducking there. You know, he just, you know, basically they're both getting ready, hurrying up and getting ready, right? And then we have Sally saying, what about the hair? Up, down, do I have time to ask Bunny? And then Sonic's like, I just want this to go perfectly for her. Just chilling out like old times. And then finally, both Sonic's Uncle Chuck and Sally's mother Alicia interject by saying, be yourselves. In Sally's case, her mom tells her, that's the girl Sonic fell for. And then Uncle Chuck tells Sonic, just relax and act the way you always do, just like old times. Now Sally's telling her mom, I'm not sure how to be that, but thanks. And Sonic's like, no worries, I'm always cooler than cool. So anyway, we begin their date. That's right, we begin their date. Let me see if I got this all in there. Yeah, maybe I gotta move it a little forward. But anyway, we begin their date. And basically they meet up at Castle Acorn. And Sally suggests maybe going to Uncle Chuck's. If that's okay. And Sonic's like, yeah, normally I'd be cool with that, but since this is the first, basically Sonic tells her that since this is the first time we've dated in for like forever, and this is a special occasion, because of that, I've made reservations at Creme de la Creme. So he basically tells her that. I'm sorry if I paused it for a second. But he basically tells her that. But he also says, if you prefer Uncle Chuck's though. She's like, no, it's fine. But she's thinking, but as they're approaching the restaurant, Sally's thinking to herself, oh my God, it is fancy. And I came like this, I blew it already. Because basically what's happening is she's realizing they're going into a fancy restaurant and she only has a vest on and everything, so. You know, and Sonic then, while she's thinking this, Sonic kind of tells her, yeah, Antoine recommended this place. He said that they didn't use margarine or something like that. Margarine. Think of that. Think of why that was mentioned, folks. A reference to Sonic Sat.AM Season 2, Episode Spy Hawk. Look it up. Now they go to the restaurant, and Sonic tells the greeter that he has reservations under the name Sonic, and the greeter's like, well, I'm sorry, sir, I don't. And then Sonic has to persuade him and go like, Sonic, hero of Mobius, fought Robotnik with the princess right here. And then the waiter's like, of course, right this way, sir. And as they're coming into the restaurant, Sally notices Mina's there with Ash, or Mina, depending on how you pronounce it. And Sonic wonders why that's a problem. And Sally basically acknowledges that she wishes her talk with Mina would have gone a little bit better, because she does understand that Mina is concerned for the citizens. So anyway, Sonic goes on to tell her, hey, don't worry about that. It's not about what tonight is about. Tonight's not about that. Tonight's about you and me, and that's it. You know. So anyway, here comes the Raider. Now they're about to order, right? Sonic's telling him, yeah, we'll start off with some water and whatever. But before he can even finish telling the waiter, you know, this is what we would like to start off with, the waiter instead wants to ask him if they're ever going to do something about Nicole, like say, shutting her down. Now, of course, this kind of upsets Sally, and Sally's saying, we're not going to do no such thing. And then you have another customer that's there saying, you know, backing Sally up, saying, you know, Nicole's a freedom fighter. And then, of course, you have the waiter saying, well, she helped legionize capturing and legionized Mobians. And then this other person has to say she was under the control of the Iron Queen. So basically we have back and forth banter between the waiters, some customers who want Nicole shut down, and some customers and waiters that say she doesn't deserve that and it wasn't her fault. Then of course Ash and Minor hear this, and Minor's like, let's go Ash, let's leave. And Ash is wondering, well, why? What, before dessert? And she's like, yes, you know, I can't have dessert here listening to that because my music wasn't supposed to do that. In other words, she's saying my music wasn't supposed to cause such a rift among the people. It was just my way of expressing how I felt. So basically we have this back and forth banter, and Sonic and Sally are just sitting there eating the bread and drinking the water. Until finally they decide to do exactly what Ash and Mina did, and that's leave the restaurant, because Sonic's like, I've lost my appetite. So anyway, but before they can even get out of that restaurant, get out of the area, before they can even get out of the area, the people still are bugging them. And they want to know, what do you have to say about this? What about this? What about that? And I think you see this one Mobian that's like trying to stop him and everything. Well, actually, this one Mobian is not just trying to stop him, but he's trying to say, yeah, you're freedom fighters. You've got to do something about this. And before the arguing and, before the pestering can continue, out of nowhere comes Amy Rose. That's right, Amy Rose comes out of nowhere and tells them, tells the crowd, give it a rest, folks. Give it a rest. And then she tells Sonic and Sally, go on and enjoy, go on. She goes on to tell, if I can get this up here. She goes on to tell Sonic and Sally, you two go on and have a lovely evening. I've got your back. And they both thank her. They both thank Amy. And then Amy has to tell the crowd, listen up. Before the crowd can even say anything, or the waiter, Amy has to tell them, listen up. Those two have done more for you and this city than anyone else. They get to have one night of peace and quiet. And then we have this one citizen come out of nowhere and say, well, ain't you Amy Rose? The one that's always after Sonic the Hedgehog? The one that's always wanting Sonic to be your boyfriend? And then you see the two others just leave after he asked that. And Amy surprisingly calmly says, Sonic will be mine one day. Until then, I just want him to be happy. And right now, Sally makes him happy. So anyway, we see Sonic and Sally going to now strolling along the Ring of Acorns of the Chow Garden or whatever. And Sally wants to know if Sonic was waiting for her this whole time. And he says, nah, I wouldn't want you, I knew you wouldn't want me to. We've got our own lives to lead. And everything. Well, basically she asked him, first of all she asked him if he was waiting for her this whole time. He says, nah. And she says, such a charm, be still my heart, and all that. And Sonic just says, oh, I knew you wouldn't want me to. We've got our own lives to lead. We've got to live them the best we can. And then Sally acknowledges this by saying, you're right. Besides, there's no use telling Sonic the Hedgehog to stop moving. And Sonic's like, nope. And then she acknowledges Fiona, then she says, then she asks, but Fiona. And he says, and Sonic's like, well, look, I've never made all the right moves, acknowledging that he has made a few mistakes here and there, if not a lot. And then Sally, I guess this is turning into playful banter, is kind of asking him, so you would have been okay if I'd stayed with Ken Khan? And then Sonic kind of says, well, he's a step up from Jeffrey, but that's not saying much. In other words, Sonic saying, no, I wouldn't have been okay with it. Which is kind of cool. And then Sally just comes, and Sally was laughing saying, you were jealous. You were jealous. And Sonic has to retort by saying, yeah, well, you were jealous of Mina, and we didn't even have anything going on. It's just playful, they're just having playful banter back and forth. And she's like, oh, I see how it is. I open up to you and you turn it back on me. And so I was like, yeah, always one step ahead of everyone. And then of course we get into a little bit more serious mode here. We kind of get into more serious mode here. Because then Sally kind of tells him, well, don't get too much further ahead. And Sonic's like, no, why not? And Sonic says, well, no, why not? And then Sally tells him she wants to be there by his side. And Sonic's thinking, really, you think you could keep up? And then she's like, if you let me. And Sonic's like, well, you know, maybe I can slow down for you. And whether fans want to admit it or not, people like it or not, there's your answer, folks. Sonic and Sally are indeed back together. But of course, what they don't realize is they're being watched by Jeffrey St. John. Now Jeffrey has a little bit of a sad look, then an angry look. We go back to Sonic and Sally, and then Jeffrey kind of suddenly disappears into smoke, reappears where Naugus is. Naugus is telling him you should be practicing your shadow melding, and Jeffrey's like, I don't have the head for it tonight. And Naugus is telling him, clear your head, boy. Tomorrow, Mobotropolis is mine. So, anyway, to me, it was a decent calm before the storm issue. Very relaxing issue, very fun issue. Yes, there was a little bit of thunder, if you will, thrown in there, with the crowd pestering Sonic and Sally at the restaurant wanting to know about Nicole. Now again, what I've said about this issue, when I talked about the highlight of it, I believe the highlight of it was indeed Amy Rose actually backing Sonic and Sally up. You know, some people may argue with the fact that Amy Rose has been turned into this, but you know what? This is development for the character. It is indeed development. I know some people don't want to hear that, but it's true. It is indeed development. You see, what Ian Flynn here did, depending on how you feel about him, and again, like I said, I've had my problems with Ian in the past. Ian realizes that if you're going to balance something out, if you're going to have a certain fan base realize that, hey, I do acknowledge this, and I also acknowledge this, you need to find a balancing out. And that's exactly what he did with Amy Rose. He found a balancing out, and he made her more mature by realizing, look, if I do love Sonic, then I want him to be happy, and right now, being with Sally is making him happy. Yes, I believe, and basically she's saying to her, basically she's telling the people, this one Mobian that asked her, you know, that said, kind of acknowledged who she was, and acknowledged who she was and what her association with Sonic was like. The one thing I like about it is she's mature enough in this issue, or she's been matured enough here, or matured, I'll put it this way, she's been matured a lot in these two pages. Because basically, you know, she's telling this person, look, Sonic, I believe Sonic will be mine one day, but for right now I want him to be happy. And if being with Sally makes him happy, then that's all that matters to me. Now again, I know there are certain fan bases out there that won't want to hear that. But you know what? In certain continuities, it's called character development. Because think about this. This, if you want to look at it from an Archie Sonic the Hedgehog comic book standpoint, this is the prime universe. of Sonic the Hedgehog. The game universe is more so like a different universe, a different time, a different universe and world. I mean, if you want more acknowledgement of that, take a look at the last issue of Sonic X, issue 40. You'll get a good idea. And use that to coincide with the Sonic the Hedgehog main issue, which was the Hedgehogs at War issue or something like that, as well as the first issue of Sonic Universe. Take a look at that, and I guarantee you folks, I guarantee you'll see it somewhat of a connection. Anyway, I think that was the highlight of it. Because again, a writer like Ian realizes if you're going to bounce the fan bases out, you got to bounce them out in a way that nobody's going to argue with. Okay? That's how you balance it out. Now, overall, I thought the main story was great. It's a good calm before the storm. I like the acknowledgement from both Sonic and Sally on who they've been around and kind of been attracted to, like Fiona and Mina and St. John and Ken Khan, and acknowledging that both have been jealous of the fact that the positions that these characters were in with them, Sonic Fiona, Sally St. John, Sonic Mina, Sally Khan. I love the fact that Ian has them acknowledge that yes, I was jealous of the fact that that wasn't me next to you. So anyway, it does officially happen here at the end to where Sonic and Sally, after that playful banner, have finally become an item again. But if you read between the lines, you'll realize that yes, they are an item again, but they realize it's not, but they can't, but I think in a way Ian's going to balance it out. He's going to make it to where it's not like, whoo, back into the consort deal. You know, so, and I like how, and this is what kind of gets me a little bit. Why is St. John saddened and angry by looking at this? I don't understand. I mean, is he saddened and angry at the fact that they're going to have to ruin all this? Or is he saddened and angered at the fact that Sally's with Sonic and he feels that should be him? I mean, come on, I thought the guy was married. Well, we'll find out about that probably eventually. I don't know. Now, about the backup story. The backup story to me is pretty good. Or the side story, whatever you want to call it, is a pretty good side story. Because basically here we have Nicole and SBO going to Knuckles and trying to explain to him something or tell him about Dimitri. So anyway, they find Knuckles at the Lake of Acorns enjoying the night sky. So basically they tell him that they need him to come with them because it's kind of a sensitive subject. So anyway, they get him over to the science lab, and of course Knuckles isn't happy about the fact of who he sees there. Now he is a little bit angry at first. And he's angry. He is angry at first at the fact that nobody told him. And SBO says, "Hey, look, man. I just found out at the same time. I just found out as well." Now, Dimitri does acknowledge that the fact that SBO and Nicole know about he and Knuckles' troubled past and history. So anyway, but he wants to talk. Oh, because he was waiting to have the strength to speak with him. So now Knuckles is like, fine, talk. And bam, he just gets shocked and surprised by the fact that Dimitri is apologizing for all of his actions. apologizing for the fact that he did not lead the Dark Legion down the proper path, that he did not listen to his brother, because if he had, both he and Knuckles would be living their lives with their families. So all he's asking is forgiveness and guidance from the guardian of Angel Island. You know, basically he's asking for all this because he apologizes that he couldn't, like I say, lead the Dark Legion down the proper path, didn't listen to his brother, could not save them from Eggman or anything like that. Now, SBO kind of intervened, saying, for what it's worth, I think he's telling before he could say anything, Knuckles kind of cuts him off and asks Dimitri, how did you get here? And Dimitri tells him that Sonic and Tails found him after he was disabled by Linda. And then Knuckles is asking about the Legion, and Dimitri tells him the Legion is armed with explosives, so they won't oppose the Doctor. Linda will have given them a chip to block the detonation, but they will be prone to mind control. And Knuckles kind of grieving a little bit. It's like, so basically the rest, what's left of our people are either good as dead or just slaves or as good as dead. And Dimitri's like, well, please don't punch me in the face. It's all I have left. And then Knuckles gets right in his face and says, look, you're going to go back to Angel Island. I'm going to hook you up into what's left of Haven, and you're going to fix the damn mess you created. Edit for the rest of your life. And Dimitri says, oh, I will. Oh, thank you. And Knuckles goes off saying, I'm going to talk to Julie Sue, see what she can do, and get ready to work, old man. Now, as Knuckles is leaving, he goes up to Nicole and SBO and says, as for you two, I understand what you did here and why, thanks. And they're kind of surprised that it went better than they expected. So overall, the side story I thought was okay. It's sort of like a come full circle deal for Dimitri and Knuckles. Kind of a full circle deal. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe it'll have something to do with what occurs in Genesis. We don't know, but very good, and I like it. And overall, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And the main story of Sonic and Sally's dating, I give that a 10 out of 10. A great calm before the storm story, despite what people may say. Overall, very good. Now, we do get another Genesis sketch preview right here. We do get a Genesis sketch preview. Now, I don't know exactly what's happening here. I don't know if that's on the Death Egg or what's going on, but that's a Genesis sketch preview. Here we have Steve Butler's penciling from his favorite, from Pat Kay's favorite scene in the issue. Pat Kay's, right there, Pat Kaminsky's, and the original cover ideas for 222. So, overall, a great issue. Definitely a great calm before the storm main story. I love it. Very, very good. And the side story, like I said, a great coming full circle deal between Dimitri and Knuckles. So overall, 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 18, overall an 18 out of 20 for this issue. If you're a Sonic and Sally fan and supporter, this is an issue you've been waiting for. If you're not, then well, I hate to say it, deal with it. So, again, great issue. Definitely pick it up if you can. And that's all I'm going to say, and I will talk to you all later.